The road between Samaria and Galilee is dusty, narrow, and honest. It has no illusions about itself, no ornament beyond the wind that combs the hills and the footsteps that wear its stones smooth. Jesus walks that road on an ordinary day with the quiet authority of someone who knows exactly where he is going and yet is never in a hurry. His friends murmur behind him, asking questions, skipping stones of curiosity across the lake of his silence. Then, at the edge of a village that keeps its distance from its own pain, they appear, the 10 men whose lives have been pushed outside the camp. Leprosy is not just a disease in this story, it is a sentence. It is a long liturgy of separation, separated from touch, from work, from worship, from the simple belonging of ordinary conversation. Each man has become a border, a living caution sign. They stand far off, as the law has taught them, but their voices cross the gap their bodies cannot. The name they call is the name they have heard helps the helpless, Jesus. Their words are a plea shaped like a hand held open. Have mercy on us. The scene is not dramatic in the way our imaginations prefer. There is no thunder, no trumpet of angels. Jesus does not raise his hands or unfurl a banner of light. He looks at them with the kind of scene that remembers what God intended when he first imagined human skin. Then he speaks an instruction that carries the weight of a promise. Go and show yourselves to the priests. It sounds practical, almost bureaucratic, as if he were telling them to file the right forms. But in their world, the priest is not a clerk. He is the one who can declare them whole and send them home. If they are to show themselves, they must be on their way as if the healing is already happening. So they go. 10 figures walking, limping, learning once more the rhythm of hope. The miracle arrives en route. Somewhere between obedience and arrival, their bodies begin to listen to the voice that made them. Skin knits up, nerves wake, scars soften. The ache that used to keep time with their steps falls out of sync and disappears. What has been frayed becomes woven. If you had stood on a hill and watched, you might not have seen the instant it happened, but you would have seen the unmistakable change. Men who began as exiles now walking with a hunter's gaze for the horizon, called home. 9 of them keep going, understandably eager to let the priest write their new story into the book of the community. One does not. He stops, feels the newness in his hands, the smoothness where there used to be warning, and turns around. He does not merely return, he reverses the logic of exile. Loud with gratitude, he comes back to the giver, not the gatekeeper. He falls at Jesus' feet, not to bargain, but to bless. He is a Samaritan, an outsider twice over, yet he becomes the first among the healed to understand that gratitude is not an etiquette, it is an orientation of the heart. Jesus notices the arithmetic of absence. We're not 10 cleansed. Where are the 9? It is not a scold so much as a sorrow. The kingdom has drawn near, and only one has drawn near to the king. Then Jesus speaks another sentence that sounds like a verdict wrapped in an embrace. Rise and go. Your faith has made you well. The Greek word whispers of wholeness beyond the skin. Salvation that travels deeper than visible healing. One man has his body restored, all 10 do, but one man has learned the way back. The road of return that begins where all true worship begins, with thanksgiving. We read this story quickly and imagine we are the grateful one. But the truth is often less flattering. Most of us tend to hurry toward the next task, the next approval, the next priest who can stamp our papers. The leper's path is our own. We ask for mercy, we are met by mercy, and then we forget to turn around. The question Jesus asks hangs in the room like a bell after it has been struck. Where are the 9? He is counting, not in numbers, but in hearts that can bear the weight of wonder. Consider what it meant for the man to return. He delayed his official re-entry to say thank you. Gratitude cost him time. It cost him momentum. It cost him the story he could have told about being first back in the village. But gratitude reordered his world. It put the giver before the gifts, the healer before the healing. In a culture where identity was measured by insider and outsider, the first worshipper of the new day is the one that insiders had learned to ignore. Jesus writes a new map, one where proximity to his heart is the only boundary that matters. If you have ever felt on the outside of your own life, this story is a doorway. It promises that God sees the people who live at the distance other people keep. It acknowledges the ache of being unseen and unheld. And then it tells the truth. Mercy travels. Mercy meets us on the road, not after we have arrived at some polished version of ourselves. The healing in this story does not wait for better circumstances. It begins with the step of trust taken while the skin is still raw and the future still uncertain. Let us pause at the hinge of the tale, the moment between going and returning, and speak to the quiet places of our own hearts. We also walk between a promise and its completion. We also carry aches that have lasted longer than our explanations. We also long for home while the dust is still on our feet. In that space, the returning leper becomes a teacher. He shows us that worship is not a reward for resolution, it is a response to presence. He turns because he recognizes that the miracle is not only what has happened to him, but who is with him. If what you are hearing feeds and strengthens your spirit and you want more messages like this, please like, comment, share and subscribe so this story can reach someone who needs it. Now, let us continue. What does it mean for faith to make someone well? The word suggests being made whole, gathered back from scattered places. Wholeness is not the same as perfection. It is the reintegration of our lives around the presence of God. Think of how pain fragments attention. You can barely remember to breathe, let alone dream. The healed man's return is the gathering of his attention back to the one who spoke mercy. His voice gets loud because gratitude is the sound a reconciled heart makes. He falls at Jesus' feet because closeness is the first joy of the rescued. There is another lesson humming just under the text. Obedience is not the opposite of encounter. They go because he says go. They are cleansed as they go. One comes back and falls down. The rhythm is not linear, but circular. Word given, trust offered, grace received, worship returned. If our spiritual lives feel thin, it may be because we treat obedience as paperwork and gratitude as a courtesy. But in the kingdom Jesus carries, obedience is how you step into the current of grace, and gratitude is how you stop and notice that the river is alive. The 9 are not villains. They are us on an average day. They are the hurried prayers we whisper in emergencies and the quick exits we make when the pressure lifts. Their absence warns us that it is possible to be helped by God and still forget God, to be made new and still live as if the credit belongs to our strategy. When Jesus asks where they are, he is not tallying points. He is naming the danger of a life that receives gifts without letting those gifts point back to the giver. And then there is the Samaritan detail. We cannot skip it. The story refuses to let piety become property. The first thanksgiving of the new creation is led by someone trained to stand at the edges. He becomes a priest of praise without a robe, a psalmist without a harp. In a landscape of boundaries, Jesus creates a sanctuary on the spot where a grateful man lies on the ground. The holy place is now wherever the healer is honoured. The holy person is the one who knows he has been met by mercy and cannot keep quiet about it. Imagine the man's return to his village after that moment. He will still go to the priest, but he will go differently. He will step through the gate, not only with a certificate of cleanliness, but with a story that glows. He will touch the hands that had not touched him in years and say their names slowly, like a blessing. He will go to the house of worship and stand in the crowd, not outside it. And when the songs rise, he will hear in them the voice that told him to go and then welcomed him back. His life will become a living explanation of what happens when gratitude meets grace. Fear loosens, shame thaws, and the future stops being a locked door. We might ask, as we consider our own roads, how we could become the ones who come back. Begin with noticing. Notice the quiet mercies that do not trend, the breath that steadies you after a hard conversation, the email you dreaded that turned gentle, the child who laughed when the day felt like a wall, the sunrise that did not demand your attention and still arrived. Then take the risk of turning around in your day to say thank you out loud, to God, to a friend, to a stranger who unknowingly carried you for a minute. Gratitude is not a mood, it is a muscle. It strengthens with use. Next, practice proximity. The healed man does not shout his thanks from the legal distance. He moves toward Jesus. Draw near in prayer, not because God is far, but because you are. Draw near by bringing the real of your life, the unedited sentences, the fatigue, the stubborn questions. Draw near by opening a page of scripture and letting the voice of Christ read you. Draw near by serving someone else with the same tenderness you wish someone would show you. Gratitude grows in the soil of closeness. Finally, remember the arithmetic. Jesus is still counting, not to shame, but to invite. We're not 10 cleansed. The question clears space around your heart for a decision. You were helped. You were spared.